what's up, you guys, and welcome back to the Televised podcast. My name is Anna, and today we're going to be talking about Supergirl Season 6, Episode 10, titled Still I Rise. I really liked this episode. I thought it was fun. I thought it had its really good moments. I understand that a lot of people are frustrated with kind of the way that the storyline specifically for Kara have been going so far this season, especially right now within this like stretch of time after she's been back. But I do think obviously after that cliffhanger at the end that it's going to be different from here on out. I mean, for me, the thing was that I kind of equate this like middle section kind of as like those like kind of more fillery episodes towards the beginning of the season, because like Kara was gone at the beginning, so they used it to like set up her trauma, set up her hopelessness, set up Nyxly, and then once Kara gets back, then she's kind of doing like every episode has kind of been like mission by mission episodes, you know? And I mean, there's still like a thread running through it where Kara has to figure out the balance between how influential Supergirl can be versus how influential the media can be, and what Supergirl's role in the media is, and what Supergirl's role as like a member of National City and like a member of that community is. And I think I like that. I don't know. And so they've, you know, taken this time to like do that and do those kind of like fillery episodes, and then now kicking off the big bad, which is normally what would happen in a season. Like they would do like a couple of episodes where there's like a villain of the week or a problem of the week to solve, and then later they start building up to the main big bad. And I don't know, personally I've enjoyed it. I know a lot of people have been kind of frustrated and angry about that, but I don't know. I think, you know, next week things will start to really like kick off. So I'm excited about it. So the episode kicks off with Nia making good on her deal with Nyxly by teleporting them both into her apartment. And it's clear that after like a few minutes that Nyxly's true colors begin to show, and she reads Nia some of that fine print that came with her deal, that Nyxly will give her a day with her mom, but she won't be able to leave her apartment and no one can enter it, and if anyone thinks to go looking for her, then Nyxly's magic will just move their mind elsewhere and Nia will be trapped. And it's unfortunate. And so Nyxly kind of reveals to Nia that she's got some other business to attend to. And Nia's like, business? Like, what business? You said you were going straight home. And Nyxly's like, well, I lied. So but she does end up keeping her deal in the end. Nyxly uses the last of her magic to bring Nia's mom back, and then she dips. So she's a woman of her word, as she says later in the episode, but at what cost? So Nia's mom finally appears and she says, "My darling, what have you done?" And the funny thing about this episode is, and I know a lot of you don't watch Charmed, but recently I've been insanely charmed by Charmed. And in this episode, there are two people from Charmed in this single episode. The actress who plays Nia's mom actually plays an elder witch. That was her title. She was an elder before all the elders were murdered. She plays this elder witch named Celeste on Charmed, which is really fun to see her. And then I'll talk about this other lady later in the episode, but I just thought that was really funny. Just love how the CW just like passes around all their little actors. Anyway, though, so Nia explains herself to her mom and says that she just needed to talk to her because she never got any training and she doesn't know what she's doing. And her mom says that she was always with her and like sending her these signs constantly. And she's like, "Why did you send my owl away?" And I'm like, hello, Nia, you said that your mom revered these owls. Of course it's a sign from your mom. Like, come on, queen, get with the program. So Nia says that that's basically exactly why she needs her, because she couldn't understand those signals. She didn't understand that the owl was from her mom. And that's why she needs this training and this time with her. And Nia says that she knew that if Nyxly did something bad, then her and her mom could fix it. That's kind of what her mentality was upon unleashing Nyxly onto the world. So basically, like, she took a calculated risk, but boy, is she bad at math. So Nia's mom says that she basically unleashed hell on earth, and Nia tries to leave, but she can't. And her mom says, well, if we're stuck here, then we better start training. Like, you made the deal. Let's actually, follow through on what we're here to do, because there's no going back. Which I thought was really, interesting. I like that Nia's mom is she's like such a beacon of like logic, and I think that's something that Nia kind of not struggles with, but she seems like she doesn't see the bigger picture as clearly as her mom does and did. And I think it's really interesting to see them spend this time together, because you'd think, I mean, for me, I was expecting like a teary-eyed reunion, and then it was more business as usual for Nia's mom. She's like, okay, we have to get to work. Like, you've just done a really horrible thing, and we have to get to work. So then we cut to the Super Friends ad for eating your greens. So Brainy and Kara do this ad for CatCo about eating your green veggies, and it is so funny and so wonderful. And it is just the kind of camp that I need and want from Supergirl. It's so wonderful. Like, Kara is clearly not happy to be there. She's making faces the entire time. She's cringing. It's terrible. And Brainy, it's fully like Brainy's whole thing, where he's like, I used to eat donuts all the time. Good? No. Like, it's terrible. It's so funny. And I just love it so much. But my favorite line is like, you would know all about being green, wouldn't you, Brainy? It's just so funny. It's so good. And Kara's like, oh my God, okay, that can't go to Andrea. It cannot. But Brainy's like, I already sent it to Andrea and she already posted it. And Kara's like, okay, well, maybe they can pull it before too many people see it. And Brainy's like, it's garnered 800,000 views in 20 minutes. And it's just so funny. I love the dynamic between Brainy and Kara. I know I've said this before, but they just have such a wonderful dynamic, because the respect on Brainy's end is so like irreverent, but then also like she's just his friend Kara, and I love them. They're so wonderful. So in the tower, Kelly and Alex are training, and Kelly takes Alex down, but she kind of is beating herself up about not getting the move that Alex taught her 100% right. And honestly, I wished that I know that they were doing business. It was a work thing, but I wish that like when they were fighting, like at one point Kelly and Alex could have kissed like while they were training, because that would have just been so cute, or like Kelly like tries to distract Alex and then like takes her down. I would have liked that. It would have been cute, but whatever. It was a nice training sequence anyway. Kara enters and talks about her training days with Alex and how she would make her train blindfolded and with kryptonite emitters on, and afterwards she'd have to watch the tapes so that she could like learn what she did wrong. Alex made her watch the recordings of her fights. So while this is happening, Kelly gets a text about Orlando's apartment falling through and how she needs to go and be with Joey because he's still in a group home and he is not going to be dealing with this news very well. So Kelly needs to be there for him. And that sets Kelly off to go to Joey's group home. And Kara, it goes off to find Orlando because she's very upset about this apartment falling through because they were supposed to move in very soon. And Kara's like, well, what happened? So Kara finds Orlando playing basketball and she actually picks up the ball and throws it back to him, which is like, hello, stay the night. Orlando tells Kara about the systemic oppression that he faces as a previously incarcerated individual and how this building called the Ormfell was supposed to be low-income housing for the ex-incarcerated, until it was bought out by a big tech company. And he says, things get better until they get worse. And Kara says that she really meant it when she told him that she had his back, and she flies off to go try to fix this for Orlando. And honestly, I mean, I think I said this last week, but I really love when they do this with Supergirl, where they make her have these interactions with civilians and like make her kind of like a street level hero, like being able to relate to the people of National City, because that's something that I think seasons 1 and even season 2 did really well, of like having her have these individual interactions with citizens, creating these storylines between them and how Kara can help them, and just like showing her as this like figure, this pillar of National City. And I love when they do that. And I just feel like it's been missing for so long, because I guess like in season 5, they didn't really do a lot of that. At least I don't remember. It was kind of like Kara was pretty consumed with fighting Lena and like, not fighting Lena, but with just the drama around Lena and everything like that. But I don't know, I did miss it. I missed it a lot. So I like these scenes. So then we cut to a scanner tracking fifth dimensional energy, and it ends up finding Nyxly. And then we see one of the guys from Midvale. From the 2-part Midvale episode from earlier in this season. It's Maxim Torque's partner in crime, Mitch, and he scoops up Nyxly, and they want to put her in the intergalactic circus, but Nyxly tells her sad story. She's playing the saddest song on the world's smallest violin, about not having powers, and the guy ends up letting her go. She then, instead of like taking her leave, she offers to help him capture Supergirl, and just says that they need to capture an engineer in order to get this done. Because she says, I don't have powers, but that doesn't mean we can't fully capture Supergirl. And Nyxly says that she's helping him because he was kind to her, and when he didn't need to be, and she makes a deal with him, which is like, uh-oh. And it's so interesting how Nyxly can put up this like wounded puppy act, it's crazy. She's so manipulative. She just like bats her eyelashes, and everybody's like, oh, you're so harmless, but she's just so like malevolent, like and it's always interesting to watch when she has these like cracks in her facade, or like how she kind of lets herself be a little less victim-y when like after Mitch made the deal, it was more, she then kind of changed to be, well, perfect, like let's go get the engineer, like it's really interesting to watch, and I think she's such an interesting character, and I'm definitely going to come back to that later, talking about Nyxly. So Kara arrives at CatCo with the story already in hand. She meets up with William, who is honestly at this point just glorified. He's just a glorified like exposition bot. Like that's all he does. He just like he fills the audience in about stuff. About what's going on. That's literally his main purpose that he has done. Like it's so ridiculous. But anyway, and she lets him know that she's going to write this piece about the Ormfell, about how it was supposed to be low income housing, but now it's going to this tech company, all of this stuff. And she's like, if the people heard about this, then they would want this to change. Like they wouldn't stand for this human cost. And it's revealed that the National City Council are voting on the deal at the building, and Supergirl wants to change their minds. And Andrea approaches, and she isn't happy about Kara's story idea. Like, what does this woman want? Like, the first time that Kara is eager to talk to Supergirl and has Supergirl ready to like give an interview, Andrea's like, oh, Kara, my sweet dear Kara, that's not going to happen. It's like, my girl can't win. She cannot win with Andrea. Oh my God. But she says that Supergirl should do a social media takeover of CatCo's social media to actually inform the public, because the vote is tomorrow. And Andrea does have a point that you can't just like run this story overnight and change hearts, before the morning. So the most efficient way to do this is to have Supergirl actually like speak to the people via the CatCo. I don't know. They didn't mention the social media, but I assume like the Instagram. So with Nia, she was able to transport both her and her mom to the dreamscape, where she sees a cage encased in ice and more ravens. And her mother tells her that she can't run away from her dreams when she gets scared. Nia says that she understands what the cage means. She figured out Nyxly's plan, but that the ravens are a distraction. But her mom tells her that there are no distractions in the dream world and to figure out what they mean. And Nia ends up seeing this like her old dollhouse appearing in the mist. And she's transported inside, where she sees a younger version of her sister and says, Maeve? And not gonna lie, I fully forgot the name of Nia's bitch-ass sister. I fully forgot her name, so when Nia was like, Maeve, I'm like, who is that? I didn't remember. I'm like, oh my god. Well, because it was 2 seasons ago, and we met her one time, and that was about it, and she was terrible, so I'm like, I don't remember what her name is, but it's fine, I know now. So then we see Naxum's buddy Mitch kidnapping an alien engineer guy. And then we cut to Supergirl going live. She's got 3,000 people watching. Flop. No, I'm just kidding. But she gets like pressed with these really tough questions about her stance on the Ormfell. Like, this one guy is like, listen, like this building could bring improvements to the Heights neighborhood, like by bringing money in there. And Supergirl's like, yeah, but it would come at like a human cost, like, and then she even gets called a hypocrite by this one lady, and it's like, oh my god. So then as she's kind of answering these questions, she hears that alien guy being kidnapped, so she's like, I have to go save somebody. And unfortunately, like, it makes her perception in the public eye even worse, because it looks like she's running away from these tough questions. But she arrives, she's like, don't I know you? And they get pulled back up to the ship by Nyxly. So at the tower, Kara is reintroduced to Mitch via John's pitch about this guy, about all the info that they found out about him. And I just love that they made the Midvale episodes like fully canon. And it's kind of funny watching, because Kara's like, he tried to kidnap me in high school and put me in his cosmic menagerie, like. And it's so funny to watch Brainy stand there like, yeah, very odd, like, bro, it was your mistake that even led to that happening in the first place. It was on Brainy that's the only reason that guy even showed up in Kara's memories, or even showed up in Kara's past in the first place. It's really funny. But one thing that people were talking about online, they were like, oh my god, why did they do that? Why did they make the Midvale episodes canon? Well, the whole reason is just because the thing is that Kara remembers both pre and post-crisis. So she has both pre and post-crisis memories in her mind. And especially if Brainy is out here changing the timeline in that new timeline, it would override, really, it would kind of override the existing memories that she has, because, there was that change between her pre-crisis and post-crisis memories. You know what I mean? Like the change is what caused it to be fresh in Kara's mind. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. That's my explanation for it. I'm not trying to figure out what the Supergirl writers are doing, but that's kind of how I interpreted it that like because Brainy messed with the timeline, that's the version that's going to be fresh in Kara's head. But it's clear, obviously, that she has her original memories because she remembers, training with Alex and all of that stuff. So she has those original memories of like her pre-crisis timeline, but just because Brainy went in and like, Brainy and Nia both went in and like messed with the timeline, it's kind of the more prominent version in Kara's mind, at least is what I was kind of thinking. So they find that Mitch, after losing Naxum, I don't remember where he went. They just said it in passing, but he just wasn't there. He was doing small-time crime to make money, but it wasn't paying enough, so he went back to like running the menagerie, thus the kidnapping. So they kidnapped this alien engineer guy who's really, his race is really known for being engineers and being really technologically advanced. So they captured like this really smart guy. And Kara puts Alex, Jean, and Brainy in charge of finding Mitch and the alien he kidnapped while she flies off to make sure that the vote goes the way that she wants. With Nia, she sits to play with her sister when a light appears in her hands, and Maeve actually like wants to see it. She's like, if you give me the light, I'll love you forever kind of thing. And Nia like lets her take it or like lets her touch it, but it ends up kind of like begins to hurt her, and then it eventually kind of like consumes her body, and then she turns into a raven, and Nia realizes that this whole time the ravens have been Maeve. And the guilt that she feels, that she harbors about her getting the family powers over Maeve, and the whole time the like shadow that's been lingering over her has been her sister's, and like it's been holding her back from understanding her powers because she's just too guilty about hurting Maeve and letting her light hurt her in the end, like, because she says that even like running to go become a reporter and running to be a hero and running away from Maeve and trying to like hide her light, it didn't help her in the end because she still lost her sister, and she cries to her mom, which is so sad. So Kara shows up at the Ormfeld to speak with the city councilwoman. She approaches and says her daughter, or the councilwoman approaches Supergirl and tells her that her daughter gets a kick out of the funny little green man. I love that so much. Also, it's really funny because like the casting of this lady, this is the other person from Charmed. So in oh man, was it season 3? Yeah, it was season 3 of Charmed, where this lady who plays this councilwoman, she plays this lady who works for Julian Shay's Shay Group organization. So Macy has to go there and do this photo shoot or whatever for the Shay Group because she is now like the owner of safe space. Anyway, the thing that the plot doesn't matter, but the whole thing is that in the episode she's like a really horribly racist, awful person to Macy, and she basically like, gets her kicked out of the building. Like the whole thing is terrible. Like it's just this really awful like racist encounter that Macy has with this woman, and it becomes like a big talking point in the episode. And it's just really funny that again she was cast as like this really awful racist horrible woman. How do you get typecast that specifically? Like, oh my god. Anyway though, so Kara pleads with this councilwoman to change her vote, but she sticks steadily with her stance that the corporation would bring the money and change to the heights that is needed. But Kara says like, well, why don't you trust the community to put that money into the neighborhood? Like, this affordable housing leads to people being able to afford to go shopping, to leads people to be able to afford to invest the rest of their money into the local community and build that community up through the act of the people who live there, rather than this like big giant corporation. And Kara basically says that she's talking about gentrification, which would, price out everybody that currently lives in the Heights and make it impossible for any just like regular person to live there, let alone people who needed that low income housing. Now there's no place for them, and eventually there'll be no place for the people who currently live in the Heights, because it will become this like really unattainable, lofty, rich neighborhood through gentrification. And basically, this bitch tells Supergirl to stick to the leafy greens. It's terrible. And Kara looks so mad. So back at the tower, Kelly is in the training room when Kara comes in and asks if she can join her. Kara expresses her frustrations about how she can't save the Ormfell, and then Kelly confides in Kara about her insecurities about becoming a hero. Also, I loved this whole scene in general, because it's honestly just like such a wonderful scene. But when Kara comes in and she's like, there's this like big metal training dummy, and she like uses her super speed to hit it a bunch of times, and then like just basically like punches it across the room and into the lab. Be careful with Lena's medbay. No. But she like punches it all the way across, and it was wonderful. I miss those kind of like training sequences. Like, do you remember in like season 2 when Kara was beating up that metal box, or like, and this is almost like a direct parallel to season 1 when Kara was beating up on that car and talking to James, and it was so nice to see this scene, because it was like Kara confiding in an Olsen again after this like really frustrating encounter, and like taking out her frustrations, but being able to confide in an Olsen, which was really cool. So then Kelly is like really insecure about not having powers and not being able to do exactly what Alex showed her, but Kara is like, hey, listen, you just need to shift your perspective, because we see you as incredibly capable and incredibly wonderful. You just need to shift your perspective in order to see yourself in that light. And that was such a sweet moment between the two of them. And Kara also is like, hey, I saw you take down Alex no matter what move you did. Like, it didn't matter. It was awesome. And she just kind of is like hyping Kelly up. And I love that. I love the connection between the two of them. Like I said last week, it's just wonderful to see them bonding and just, being together. So Kara, they're, like I said, they're having this heart to heart, and Kelly's phone then dings, and Kara asks if it's about Joey. But Kelly says that she's set an alert for the healthy eating PSA. It's at 5 million views, and I just love this moment, because it's like Kelly like teasing Kara about this and like having this kind of goofy moment with Kara. And I love it. It's just so wonderful. It's like I said last week, it's everything that Maggie and Kara weren't, is Kelly and Kara. And I love that. It's just so wonderful. But Kara's like, it's good for Brainy, for finding something that resonated with people. And Kelly says that that's kind of what they need to do with this vote, like with Orlando. Because she says it wasn't the statistics that Brainy, was saying or Kara was saying or whatever. It wasn't the statistics that made people latch on to this PSA. It was Brainy's personal story about donuts and about how he didn't have any energy to fight crime, and how it made him feel better to eat his leafy greens, And she says that is what they need to show the council. And Supergirl's like, okay, well, that means that I need to amplify other voices rather than speak on my own, because I don't have that personal story. We need somebody to come in like Orlando who has that personal connection, which was really cool. And like I said, that's probably, I mean, maybe one of my favorite one of my favorite scenes of season 6, because it had everything. It had Kara and Kelly training together. It had them like having these like bonding moments, these reassuring moments between both of them, not even just Kara reassuring Kelly, but also Kelly reassuring Kara and helping each other with their problems, and just having this really wonderful connection, as well as like Kelly teasing Kara and being able to have this like fun rapport with her girlfriend's sister. It was just really lovely to watch. And I mean, Ozzy and Melissa are so wonderful together as well. It's fun to watch them on screen. So with Nyxly, it's revealed that the trap for Supergirl is like tiny, and she basically says that it's more so a Trojan horse rather than a trap. So with Nia, she says that she knew that if she just saw her mom, she would gain the knowledge she needed to fully understand her powers. And her mom is like, okay, yeah, but at what cost? At what cost, Nia? Like, come on. And her mom tells Nia a story about a woman who slandered her friend. Then she went to her rabbi, and the rabbi said to cut up a pillow and scatter all of the feathers into the wind. And then he tells her to go pick up all the feathers. And the lady is like, well, that's impossible. And the rabbi's like, well, yeah, it's just about impossible as undoing all of the wrongs that you have done, all of the hurt that you've caused with your actions. And the moral of the story basically is that like once a wrong is done, it's nearly impossible to undo, and you just have to like move forward with your solution. And Nia has clearly made this like grave mistake. Like this, it's bad. So no matter like how much it helped her, she still did this really bad thing and did this really wrong thing. And she tells Nia that there's really nothing she could do to like fix it, because Nia's like, I can fix it. I know how to fix it. And she's like, there's no way to fix it. You just have to keep going forward, and you have to be able to sit with the gravity of what you've done and be able to accept that you did something bad, and then you can move forward and figure out what the next steps are in order to take Nyxly down, because there's no way to fix what she did but just moving forward and being able to understand how to stop her or something like that, And then she says something really sad. She's like, just as you have sat with your grief today. And I'm like, oh my God. Because she's like, her mom in the flesh is like the physical manifestation of her grief. And it just was really upsetting to me. So then her hand is kind of like getting that blue energy. She says, looks like our time is up and she must go. And it's really sad. Nia says, I love you, Mom. And she says, I love you back. And it's really sad. And I wish that, I know that I had theorized this in the, in my trailer, episode, but I kind of wish that it was kind of like the, Brainiac, not hive mind, but like where Nia could like always see her mom. You know what I mean? I wish it was like that, where she could always see her mom in the dream world. Like she could always come to her, But obviously that is not the case. But now Nia has the knowledge to be able to look for and understand her mother's signs, which is really wonderful. And then after her mom is gone, she's kind of like breaks down crying. And then she says, all right, Nyxly, I'm coming for you. And that was really iconic. It was really iconic. So at the council vote, Supergirl and Kelly are there, but they allow Orlando to share his own personal story. He talks about himself and the system that has held him back, and also about Joey and how much he needs a home so that Joey doesn't end up falling into the same mistakes that he made when he didn't have, a home or access to much of anything. When he felt so beat down, he resorted to the life, to doing crime in order to, just do better for Joey and for himself. And he's like, look, Joey needs a place to call home so that this doesn't happen to him. so that the cycle doesn't continue with him. So before the council can actually make a vote, though, Nyxly sets her evil plan in motion. She actually uncloaks the ship and pretends to be an innocent prisoner and says that Mitch was like building something and all this stuff. And she tells that to Brainy, Alex, and Jean, who appear on the ship because it's uncloaked. And Brainy says it's a cryonuclear bomb strong enough to encapsulate a Kryptonian in ice forever, and then it goes off within the building and everybody has to evacuate. Alex, Jean, and Brainy show up on the scene where they meet up with Kara, Kelly, and William. Why William is there, I do not know. That guy should have just ran. Like, I don't understand why he felt the need to like stick by Supergirl's side. Like, buddy, do you have any sense of self-preservation? Like, come on, get with the program. Flee the building. You are not a hero. You're not superpowered. You don't have any kind of training. Like, at least Kelly is gonna become Guardian. I mean, they don't know that. William doesn't know that, but she's got this like training, and she was in the army. Like, hello, William was just some guy. Like, please run. So Kara and Jean split to the basement to get the bomb, while Alex, Brainy, and Kelly are in charge of evacuating everybody. So in the basement, Kara and Jean find the bomb, but it's encased in lead, so she can't really see how to defuse it. Jean uses his Martian powers to calm the quaking of the building so that it won't collapse, and Kara uses her heat vision to destroy the bomb, which she's able to do successfully. Well, so we think. With the other Super Friends, Kelly uses a corkboard as a shield, which is so awesome, and I'm so obsessed with all of the imagery that they've given Kelly so far this season with shields and with improvised shields. It's just so cool. Like, she takes the corkboard off the wall and holds it up in front of her and the evil racist lady, and is able to protect them from this glass that shatters, which is really cool. So Brainy then kind of like leads all the people out onto this terrace, and he calls the Legion ship in order to get them out of there. After much deliberation, after everybody's settled and the building is fine and out there, everybody's out of the Legion ship, the council decided to rezone the Ormfell for affordable housing immediately. Supergirl thanks the councilwoman and this councilwoman, that one specific councilwoman, is basically a raging bitch about it, and she says that she wasn't swayed and that the Heights will now go to the criminals. Ooh. But Kara's like, look, people deserve second chances. That's it, lady. Like, you lost. Sorry about it. Kelly and Alex have this little conversation off to the side, and Kelly realizes that being a hero isn't about mastering a single move, but rather adapting to what's actually going on, and she says, that's why I'm gonna make a kick-ass Guardian. And Alex says, damn right you are. It was a really cute moment. So at the tower, Brainy and Kara talk on the balcony. Brainy says that they can use their platform for more than just healthy eating, and Kara actually talks about Mitch having no other choice but to pursue a life of crime because the system isn't designed to help him. And she has this like sympathy for him that I think is admirable, and obviously very clearly very Kara of her. And she says that she was so happy to help Orlando and to make sure that the Ormfell went to the right people, but she feels like it was just one victory in like an endless amount of never-ending problems that she feels like she can't solve. And Brainy says that the fight for systemic change often feels never-ending, and all we can do is keep showing up. And then he tells her, I will be beside you every step of the way. Jean interrupts and says that they picked up an energy signature outside the Ormfell and that the bomb energy should have dissipated by now, but it is odd. And Kara says, well, I'll just like check it out on my way home. Maybe it's residual energy from my heat vision. Like, I'll just swing by there. And honestly, though, that scene of Kara and Brainy on the balcony was just really lovely, and it was such a wonderful moment between the two of them. Like I said, I love their dynamic. I love the reverence that Brainy has for Kara. I love how much he looks up to her. And I also just love their friendship, and it's just, I love them. I love them. So at the Ormfell, Nyxly uses all the little ice shards to recharge, kind of like a battery. So basically, Kara lands and finds Nyxly there. She gets trapped to the ground by magical ice, and Nyxly confronts Kara about leaving her to die, and tells her Kara puts the pieces together and is like, I gave you your powers back. I charged the bomb with my heat vision, and it charged you. And Nyxly's like, yeah. And she tells her that the only thought that kept her going was that she would kill her father one day, once she got out of the Phantom Zone. But now her goal has changed. She says Kara was her partner, her friend, and she destroyed her last hope right before her very eyes. And now her new thought was that Kara would know the pain she felt, and she would watch as her greatest hope crumbled before her very eyes. And she says, and unlike you, I'm a woman of my word. And it's like, oh my God, she's such an evil lady. So then Nyxly crumbles the Ormfell right in front of Kara. And it's like, oh. It just felt, honestly, that last moment of this episode felt like such a season 1 moment, because it just felt so like, Kara's like most helpless, like lowest moment that we used to get in a lot of the episodes in season 1. And it just was like, oh my God, that was so rough. That was so rough. And then Nyxly says that Kara can't get out of this ice because guess what? Only magic can beat magic. Then Kara says it. Mr. Mxyzptlk, and he shows up, and then that's the very end of the episode. The next episode is titled Mixie in the Middle, which will obviously feature Mxyzptlk as, Kara's helper in the fight against magic. But the thing is, spoilers, Lena is going to have magic, and I think, again, Supercorp Endgame, that Lena is going to be the only key to helping Kara actually defeat Nyxly, and is going to be the only, basically kind of the only barrier, the only person that can protect Kara from magic. Because the thing is, like, Mixie can't stick around the whole time, so they had to have somebody be able to have magic in order to fight Nyxly's powers, because Kara just can't fight it with her, Kryptonian abilities, and they gave it to Lena. Like, she's literally the missing piece. Like, Kara can do everything else. Kara has infinite power to be able to fight basically anything. She has that infinite ability, except for one thing, and that's magic and kryptonite. And in both cases, they have established that Lena is the missing piece that Kara needs in both of those scenarios in order to actually, like, survive a kryptonite encounter, obviously with her anti-kryptonite suit, but also to be able to fight magic, because Kara physically cannot fight magic. Like, only magic can beat magic, and Lena is going to have that magic in order to save Kara and be able to protect her from what is happening, which is so crazy to me. Like, it just feels crazy, but it's like they're really doing that. They're really setting Lena up as like the missing piece that Kara needs in order to save National City and probably save the world, like, as far as it goes. And like, that, what is more endgame than that? Like, her perfect partner at a game night. That's just what it feels like, I don't know. Her missing piece, her perfect partner at a game night, the Luther to her super, like, it's just soulmates endgame to me. Oh my God. The writing's on the wall. The writing is on the wall, and I am reading it. And honestly, too, one thing that I've mentioned before on the podcast, specifically in my like top favorite Supercorp episode, which was like a while ago at this point, but I've talked about before the interesting dynamic that was Supercorp before Lena found out Kara was Supergirl. Because Lena, in her mind, was always the one protecting, you know, sweet summer child Kara Danvers. And she was the one always, you know, protecting her from everything and being that heroic figure to Kara's kind of meek, vulnerable self. That's kind of what their dynamic was in Lena's mind. Obviously, we as the audience and Kara knew that Kara was more than capable of, you know, handling herself because she has these powers and is infinitely more powerful than even Lena. And yet, you know, Lena had that impression of their dynamic. And what's interesting is that they're kind of bringing that dynamic back with this magical moment between the two of them, because now it's going to be Lena protecting Kara once again, except there's no illusion. There's no delusion of, there's no illusion of vulnerability from Kara, because she actually is vulnerable. And I think that's so cool that they're like, and now they can just fall back into place, except now everything is open between them. They can be their whole true selves and yet still fall back together in the way that they once were, like perfect puzzle pieces. And it's just wonderful. I love it so much. So I also wanted to talk about Nyxly as well, just really quick, because for me, I think Nyxly is the perfect villain for Kara. Like, because she is the exact opposite of what Kara is. She's like the perfect foil for Kara, you know? Like, Nyxly is an example of what the kind of trauma Kara has gone through and Kara has faced can do to people who aren't Kara. You know what I mean? Like, Nyxly was banished to the Phantom Zone. She had all of these same hardships that Kara faced and had the same kind of shitty hand dealt to her, and yet she chose to be bitter and cold and angry and obsessed with vengeance or revenge, or, you know, obsessed with like getting hers rather than helping people or doing any kind of good in the world. She was going to take anything that she felt she deserved, you know? Whereas Kara, you know, she was dealt, obviously, like I said, that the same kind of shitty hand of like Phantom Zone. You know, her cousin's grown up. She has no mission. She's kind of outcast from her family. She was, you know, all of this stuff, and she had to deal with that, losing her entire world. And yet she was angry, but she didn't let it consume her, because her hope and her unending faith in humanity and in the world and in goodness is what kept her from becoming Nyxly, basically. You know, because, I mean, as we saw kind of in the Red Kryptonite episode, Kara, without her moral compass, is horrifying and scary and terrifying. To have this godlike being unhinged and angry and mad at the world and having no regard for anyone else except themselves. And that is what Nyxly is to a T. And it just really feels like any instinct that Kara has, like, Nyxly's would be the opposite. And I just can't imagine a better villain for Kara's final season than somebody who has no hope and is entirely selfish and is overpowered to the max in the same way that Kara is, you know? So I think it's really cool. It feels just like this villain was tailor-made for her, and I love it. I think it's really cool, and I'm really excited to see how the rest of the season goes with Kara fighting Nyxly and dealing with, like, how do you deal with a villain who has no hope and who has no moral compass, who has no heart to appeal to. Because that's Kara's go-to. That's how she has saved the day every single time, is by appealing to the humanity within every single villain that she has fought. How do you do that with a villain that doesn't have humanity? How do you do that with a villain who is so selfish that as long as it goes right for them, screw the world, this is going good for me? It's going to be really interesting to watch as Kara kind of probably, struggles with the idea of hope and with how much that can actually help. So it'll be really interesting to watch. I'm really excited. Next week, Lena will be back, which is really exciting. We're going to learn a lot more about her mother and, I'm sure, get introduced to her magic, which is really exciting. But that is all I have for today. Let me know what you think in the comments below, or you can tweet me at Televised Pod and let me know what you thought there. And that's it. Be sure to, rate, like, share, subscribe, do all the things, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.